Welcome everyone to Meet the Articles. This is our signature annual forum, and this year our forum is entirely virtual. Our aim today is to inform you, our attendees and viewers, about what you'll be voting on at our annual town meeting on Saturday, May 6th. Our team of Civic League volunteers culled through all the articles on the town warrant. They've identified a small number for us to focus on today. We've invited Town Manager Libby Gibson and her team to cover additional articles, which you'll hear about as well. Right now, this forum is being broadcast live to viewers on NCTV. NCTV also is recording this forum, and they will rebroadcast it repeatedly in the days ahead. The Civic League will partner with NCTV to produce a YouTube video of today's forum. This video will be made publicly available for subsequent viewing on demand. So spread the word to anyone who might be interested. You'll be able to watch today's forum at your convenience prior to annual town meeting. I'll now introduce our moderator for today's forum, Civic League co-president Charles Stott.
Well, thank you, Peter, and welcome everyone to Meet the Articles. Our aim is to inform you, our attendees and viewers, as voters. You'll be casting votes on warrant articles at Nantucket's annual town meeting on May 6th. For most of the articles we'll hear about today, we offer the proponent's own perspective as well as an alternative perspective, so you can decide how to vote. Thanks to our panelists, each of whom offers a perspective on an article you're asked to vote upon on May 6th. Thank you for attending and participating panelists, and to those of you watching this forum afterward on demand on YouTube. And we especially want to thank NCTV for facilitating today's double feature, our traditional Meet the Candidates and Meet the Articles public forums. Our Meet the Articles forum today features an overview by Town Manager Libby Gibson and her staff. Then town officials will explain 4 warrant articles submitted by the Select Board. And there will be presentations on 3 voter-sponsored articles and, where possible, an alternative perspective. To submit your question for a presenter, use the Q&A feature at the bottom center of the Zoom screen to type your question. As moderator, I will read the questions in the order in which they were submitted. The appropriate panelist will respond. You may type your question in advance so that it is submitted in order for consideration via Q&A. You could type it right now if you like. I'll now introduce Town Manager Libby Gibson, an overview of this year's annual town meeting. Libby?
Thank you so much. Very much appreciate being here. Wanted to give a little overview of how the warrant gets developed. Development starts in October. It involves many discussions with the Select Board, Finance Committee, Capital Program Committee, Planning Board, and many internal town administration meetings. The Select Board adopts the warrant typically in late January. Finance Committee and Planning Board motions are adopted usually in early March. The Select Board considers and adopts any comments it might have to any of the articles or the motions. The warrant with the motions then goes to print and is mailed to all registered voters. People should have started getting their warrants by now. We were talking about it in the office today, and some people have gotten them, some people have not. I have not gotten mine just yet, but other people have. So we know it's out there and it's getting to you very soon. There are 105 articles on the 2023 annual town meeting warrant as compared to 107 in 2022. The articles are typically grouped with financial articles and budgetary articles grouped typically at the beginning of the warrant. And we have zoning grouped together. We have 32 zoning articles this year. Last year we had 22. We have 7 general bylaw amendments this year, or general bylaws, 12 real estate articles, 11 home rule petitions, of which 4 are resubmittals. We have 26 citizen warrant articles this year as compared to 31 last year. There are 7 articles that are dependent upon ballot questions, and I'm going to just quickly go over those. These ballot questions will be taken up at the annual town election on May 23rd. There are, of the 7 questions, there is 1 capital exclusion. The capital exclusion is an article that seeks to override Prop 2.5 to increase taxes to cover the cost of the item for 1 year. We have 4 debt exclusions. The tax rate would be increased for the debt life of those items, typically 20 years. And we have 2 operating overrides. Those are permanent increases to the tax rate. We have Article 11 is a debt exclusion. It is supplemental funding for Surfside area road improvements. That is a $13 million appropriation. It is contingent upon the passage of ballot question number 1. And the tax rate would increase. I'll read these, but it's also online and it will be in the voter's guide. So don't feel like you have to remember it. But for a year-round property, the average property that's valued at $1,688,790, $1,688,790, which qualifies for a residential exemption, the tax rate for the debt exclusion for the Surfside Road project, again, Article 11, would increase by $30.90. Article 13 is a debt exclusion. That is supplemental funding for landfill closure costs of $5 million. That is question 2 on the ballot. Tax rate would increase by $11.73 for that. Article 14 is a debt exclusion. The supplemental funding for the Walwinet shared use path, $4.6 million appropriation. Tax rate would increase by $10.81. That is question 3 on the ballot. Article 15 is a debt exclusion for nobody or playing field improvements, which include the addition of a field, a playing field, a grass field, some renovations and site enhancements. That's a $3.8 million project. The tax rate would increase by $8.87. Question 4 on the ballot. Article 10, which is general fund capital items, has a number of capital items in it. And of those items, $970,000 worth, which includes fire equipment, DPW equipment, and school grounds equipment. $970,000. That increases the tax rate for 1 year at $31.31. That's question 5 on the ballot. Article 18 is an operating override for affordable housing for $6.5 million. That is question 6 on the ballot. That increases the tax rate by $211.30. And that is question 6 on the ballot. Article 21 is an operating override for the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget of $3.75 million. That increases the tax rate by $121.76, and that is question 7 on the ballot. So that's just an overview of the ballot questions and the articles that are contingent upon them. The general fund operating budget, which is contained within Article 8 for fiscal 24, is a total of $116,235,316 to fund the general operations of the town for, again, fiscal 24. Articles that, just wanted to review with people, that generated the most discussion at the Finance Committee and Select Board level included Article 18, which is the $6.5 million operating override for affordable housing. Associated with that discussion was a lot of discussion about Article 35, which is a citizen article to dedicate short-term rental revenue, a portion of short-term rental revenue, to an affordable housing stabilization fund. The short-term rental citizen zoning articles, 58, 59, and 61 generated some discussion. Article 76, a citizen article pertaining to an outdoor lighting bylaw amendments, had quite a bit of discussion. And Article 81, which seeks to change town government from select board to town council, a citizen article, had quite a bit of a discussion. There were other articles that had discussion as well. These are the most that, according to my records, had the most discussion. We have a lot of outreach going on out there right now for town meeting. We have videos for the articles with ballot questions. Those have been posted. They're online. Hopefully people have started watching them. They contain the information that I just mentioned about the tax rates increases for the articles that are contingent upon ballot questions. We're working on our annual voters guide that should be posted hopefully by tomorrow and will be available at town meeting. It'll get posted online. The Finance Committee is having an informational session about warrant articles and its motions on next Tuesday, April 25th at 5 p.m. online. We have meetings with community groups such as this annual forum, and thank you again to the Civic League for hosting it. I met with the Rotary Club today. I'm meeting with the Nantucket Town Association next Tuesday, and we are dedicating our April Town Manager e-newsletter to town meeting. And just some specifics about town meeting for people's general knowledge. Town meeting will start, as we know, on Saturday, May 6th at 8:30 a.m. Now, this means the meeting is starting at 8:30 a.m. That doesn't mean get there at 8:30 a.m. Try to get there earlier, like no later than 8, so you can be seated and ready and off to the races at 8:30. Please do not bring your coffee with you. Drink that before you come. Should be no food or drink other than water in the auditorium. Please bring your own lunch. We are planning about a, 45-minute break or so for lunch. There'll probably be some other breaks here and there, but the idea is to bring your lunch so you don't have to go out and get it. And if it's nice out, people can sit outside and have it. And if not, it can be inside, but again, not in the auditorium. And we will have overflow in the Nantucket High School gym, as we have done in prior years. Just in case people haven't seen it, I'm sure everybody on here has seen it, but the warrant does look like this. So when you see it in the mail, don't throw it away. Please bring it with you to town meeting. And I think that is the extent of my overview. My team and I are happy to answer questions as we proceed through the forum. And I guess I will turn that back over to you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you so much, Libby. And I'll begin calling on the presenters of the warrant articles that we're going to cover this afternoon. We'll start with Article 14. And welcome back to our former and once again transportation planner, Mike Burns. Mike will inform us about the upcoming Wauwinet Road shared use path, and he'll be followed by Wauwinet Association President Tony Cahill with an alternative point of view. Okay, Mike, you're up.
Thanks, Charlie. Good to see you again. And Tony, it's been a while, but good to see you again as well.
Nice to see you, Mike.
As recommended by the Finance Committee, Article 14 seeks to appropriate $4,600,100 to supplement funding for the design and construction of an 8 to 10 foot wide shared use path along Wauwinet Road from Pulpus Road to the gatehouse at the end of Wauwinet Road. Wauwinet Road is a very narrow road, over 2 miles in length, with numerous curves, poor sight lines, and minimal area on the road available for pedestrians. This dedicated path supports the Select Board strategic planning goal to shift the commuter mode of choice from driving alone to using other modes of transportation, and would safely accommodate active transportation users as they traverse along the road to access residential, commercial, and conservation areas, all while respecting the historical setting of our community. The path will serve those who live in the vicinity of Wauwinet Road and connect them to the island's existing system of paths. And since much of the island's local economy is heavily based on tourism, it will connect residents and visitors to the area's conservation lands and other destinations. The project is supported by a 2014 joint study by the U.S. Department of Transportation and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for improved access to the Nantucket National Wildlife Refuge. The history of the project goes back much further to the island's 1977 Bikeway Master Plan, where it was identified and continues to be recommended as a priority for a path. There is $2,158,200 in federal grant funding currently dedicated to the design and for construction of a portion of the project. Survey and preliminary design will start in the coming months to identify specific impacts, evaluate the path's alignment and mitigation alternatives, and refine construction costs. The requested funding would supplement the balance of the design and construction efforts and help ensure the whole project is implemented.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Your perspective, Tony?
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I've been president of Wallwinnet Landowners for many years and have lived in Wallwinnet for 25 plus years. My wife was in Wallwinnet for 30 plus summers, so we're longtime Wallwinneters. As president, though, I'm going to read to you the charter of the Wallwinnet Landowners Corporation. The purpose for which the Wallwinnet Landowners Corporation is formed are to protect the property and other interests of Wallwinnet landowners and to preserve and improve the natural environment and beauty of Wallwinnet and the island of Nantucket. Now, having said that, the bike path would be ending at the gatehouse, which the road then becomes a private road. So it's a path to nowhere. There are no facilities at the gatehouse for bike riders. There's no place for bike riders to go. So they would be turned around and sent back or across the Squam Road, which could be a difficult bike ride. Also, permits and north of the hotel, permits are required for driving vehicles as well for residents. So really, bikers would not be welcome out there. The easement that goes through Wallwinnet is owned. That's an easement established in the 70s for fishermen that was established for fishermen to get out to Wallwinnet. Back at the time, drivers were driving all over the place. So the Wallwinnet landowners decided to give the fishermen access. Both sides of the road are owned individually, and the road is very narrow and deep sand, so there's no way to get out, ride a bike out past the hotel. The other thought is the character of Wallwinnet has not changed much like the rest of the island. The people that moved to Wallwinnet for the rural and quiet peacefulness of Wallwinnet, and we feel a bike path would not help that at all. It would bring people wandering around Wallwinnet and with no place to go. And we already have that with the trustees. Another issue that would be a problem is currently cars stop to get permits, cars stop to air down their tires, cars stop to air up their tires, and we have quite often a lot of gridlock with a lot of cars. To throw some bicyclists into the middle of that would not be a safe issue. We find it would be very dangerous because it's already a dangerous issue that we work with the trustees on to try and correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tony Cahill. Next up is Article 18, but unfortunately, Municipal Housing Director Tucker Holland had a 4 o'clock meeting and he'll be returning shortly. So we'll skip ahead to Article 36, the Independent HDC Administrator. So I'd like to introduce Historic District Commission's Diane Coombs to explain Article 36. Diane, if you would kindly unmute and share your thoughts with us.
Hi, hope you have a good afternoon, everybody. We are trying to face a great deal of business in the HDC, and we have had problems of who is saying what building is, what the age is, and this sort of thing. We are asking not to change where the HDC stays in plus. We are not asking to do any of that. What we are asking for is a administrator that is controlled by us, the HDC, so that when we have a staff, we have a person who administrator who is fully educated in the way of dealing with historic buildings, historic areas, and those problems. And then we have staff of people who do the posting work and all the rest of the work. And they would be, we are asking for to be under the administrator. The administrator's position can be applied for by anybody. We're not saying to take somebody from off island or anything else. We have a very good staff and we would very much like to see them stay under these conditions. Our HDC was run this way back in 2016 when it was changed and put under the program of Plus. And we feel that we are an independent and should be an independent commission. When we ask for something done or we ask for some information, we would like to get it from our staff or the administrator and not have it run to Plus. We are not Plus as such. We are, should be an independent commission with our own administrator and our own staff that reports to us, and we count on them to help us. And it is the way it has been for ages before the 2016, and it worked very well then. And we need that help. We need to have our advisory boards reinstalled that Plus canceled. And they give us we can't live everywhere. So we have an advisory board who lives in that area or covers that area, who gives us the feeling of what the town is, what that part of town is like. It's very important rather than have us walk in and not take advice from our advisors. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Diane. We have not identified anyone who would offer an alternative point of view, but are there any town officials that wish to comment on Article 36?
I think that if she is able to come in and perhaps is okay with the deputy planning director, Holly Backus, our preservation planner, might want to make a comment. And I would just say that I certainly understand the HDC's desire for an employee that, as is represented, is controlled by them. However, that is really not the way the charter of the town as adopted in 1996 reads. And there are other department administrators or directors or managers that are staff to independent commissions, such as the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, and they all report to a supervisor who ultimately is part of a centralized government, which is what the charter was all about. But I don't know if Holly would want to add anything, but I think she's an attendee, so she'd have to be let in.
Holly, are you able to join us?
There's
Okay, Holly, you're on mute.
there are one minute and 40 seconds remaining in the time for comment on this.
Holly, you're up.
Good afternoon. Thank you for, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I wanted to mention from staff's perspective that this article, while has, some good intentions, at the end of the day, it's a non-binding directive to obviously the select board to appoint an independent administrator. And I have been on the record to indicate that this type of position, first of all, should have been vetted and requested a different way, not through the act of a citizens warrant article, but through the process through Plus. Also, it's important to note that HDC has been part of Plus since, I believe, 2012, when Plus was created. It's also part of under the town charter. It's also, this is kind of a discredit to current staff, as if there's no professional staff here. There is. Myself and 2 other staff members handle the administrative aspect of the HDC. I hold a bachelor's degree in historic preservation and art and architectural history with a graduate certificate in historic preservation. So to say there's no professional staff is erroneous. There is no need for a one-person show. We're past that. It's a group effort. It's a team effort. There's additional staff within administration of Plus that helps the HDC. We're a cog in a wheel, so to speak, and there's no need to have an HDC administrator when, quite frankly, staff that's currently there works again together as a team.
Please.
Thank you. I just wanted to just follow up with just for saying that the 3 main staff work together, and there's no way one sole person can handle all of that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your comments, Libby and Holly. Now we'll move on to Article 39 concerning swimming pools, hot tubs, spas, and outdoor water features. Assistant Planning Director Leslie Snell will inform us about Article 39. Leslie?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for including this on your list of articles for the day. Article 39 is sponsored by the Planning Board. It addresses residential swimming pools and hot tubs and spas. It does not change the current allowances that are in the bylaw, where residential swimming pools or hot tubs are currently allowed either by right or by special permit or are prohibited. It reorganizes it, but it does not change those things. It removes the current definitions, including references to gallonage. It creates new categories of residential outdoor water features based on just the square footage of the surface area. Again, we've removed any reference to gallons because that's confusing. Really, this article came out of some ongoing litigation that was brought forward by some property owners asking the land court to make certain interpretations about our zoning bylaw. The land court did make a ruling, and they directed our staff to interpret the bylaw in a certain way, which isn't consistent with our current definitions. So the main intention of this article is to bring our zoning bylaw into compliance with the directive that was provided to us by a land court judge. So the article would create 3 categories of residential outdoor water features. A hot tub or a spa would be less than 75 square feet of surface area and would have certain features that are spelled out in the article. A small residential swimming pool would be less than 150 square feet. It would be subject to certain features that are spelled out in the article. And then a large residential swimming pool that would be greater than 150 square feet in surface area and also subject to certain criteria that are included in the article. The main point here, again, is it would remove any ambiguity, address the points that were suggested by the land court judge, and I would ask town meeting to support the planning board's article.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie. And now I'd like to welcome Ann Duez with an alternative perspective on Article 39. All yours, Ann.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. I've been interested in pools on Nantucket for a while now, and brought Article 54 to town meeting last year, which was to ban any kind of water feature from the historic district, and that passed. We have 3 definitions in our zoning code that have to do with pools: swimming pool residential, swimming pool commercial, and hot tub spa. These 3 definitions are clear, they're easy to understand, and as of a land court ruling last year, uncontradictory among themselves, or to put it another way, harmonious. In essence, they are already, pardon the pun, these 3 definitions cover the waterfront. It seems like this new definition is solving a problem that simply doesn't exist. This new definition eliminates the swimming pool residential and hot tub spa definitions, but leaves the definition of swimming pool commercial untouched. In the current code, the two pool definitions dovetail perfectly. Now they would diverge. If your pool is residential, it's a water feature and has certain characteristics. If it's commercial, it's a pool with different characteristics. This creates confusion and leaves the door open for manipulation of the zoning code. This new definition creates something completely new, a small pool. This is particularly perplexing because it is not clear that it adds anything at all to the definition. There's no pressing need for a small pool. To sum up, we don't need this new definition for two reasons. First, the definitions we have now work, they're harmonious. And two, the proposed change adds unnecessary complexity to the zoning code, rendering this part of the code hard to understand and to negotiate, which is kind of the last thing we need in an already complicated zoning code. So I think, perhaps others do too, that these reasons support a no vote on Article 39. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann. All right, let's go back to Article 18. I'd like to call upon Tucker Holland, Nantucket's Municipal Housing Director, to explain Article 18, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Tucker?
Thank you very much, Charlie, and sorry to be joining you a little bit late here. So Article 18 is a $6.5 million permanent override, which has a companion ballot measure, I believe ballot measure 6. Town meeting and the voters have been very supportive of housing measures in recent years, starting in 2019 with the so-called Neighborhood First $20 million bonding. In total, $67 million has been appropriated over the course of the last 4 years, and that money is all in the process of either having been deployed or being deployed toward buy-down projects, construction, land acquisition, to create housing, principally with the aim of providing quality, affordable, safe, stable housing to year-rounders, in addition to adding to our 10% requirement by the state for our subsidized housing inventory. So the $6.5 million is going to go towards several purposes. It is going to ensure the final achievement of our 10%, and we have moved from 2% just 5 years ago to 6.5% today. And it is going to further ensure the continuity of safe harbor. We have been in a 3-year continuous period and are now in a new 2-year period, which will take us to the end of 2024. It will also provide monies toward a major goal of the select board, which is home ownership opportunities. A lot of what has happened to date has been geared toward rental. The state gives a significant incentive to do rental when it comes to including housing on the subsidized housing inventory. But we know that home ownership is critical if we are going to continue to have teachers, nurses, firemen, policemen, you name it. Excuse me?
Time, please.
Oh, I'm
Anyway.
sorry. So these funds are going to allow for us to offer down payment assistance programs, buy down of planned units, and develop new stock through public and private partnerships. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker. let me take this opportunity to remind you, our audience members who may have questions, use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to type your question in at any time, starting right now, if you like. Okay. Next, I'd like to introduce Gail Walker to inform us about Article 76, her proposed outdoor lighting bylaw. Gail?
Well, thank you, Charlie, and hello, everyone. I'm a longtime summer resident of Sconset and the founder and president of Nantucket Lights, a citizen advocacy group dedicated to reducing light pollution on Nantucket. My article, Article 76, proposes replacing our outdated 17-year-old lighting bylaw with a new one that's consistent with what's currently considered best practices for minimizing light pollution. I developed it in close consultation with several outdoor lighting experts and the International Dark Sky Association. And here's why we need this. According to satellite data, our night skies are 25% brighter now than they were just 10 years ago. And it's likely even worse than that because satellites can't detect the blue light that's emitted by LEDs that are so popular now. As a result of this brightening caused by excessive and poorly designed outdoor lighting, it's much harder to see the stars at night on many parts of the island now. And if we don't act soon, we could all lose our view of the Milky Way, as most people in the mainland already have. And stargazing isn't the only thing at stake. Bright lights on neighboring properties have become a serious quality of life issue for many because it interferes with their sleep and the enjoyment of their own property. Our outdoor lighting is also posing a risk to wildlife, including pollinating insects, birds, and even plants. It's also eroding the rural historic character of the island and wasting energy. As if all that weren't bad enough, glare from bright lights can also be a safety hazard. And there's some evidence that outdoor lighting may even be harmful to human health because of the way artificial light at night disrupts our circadian rhythms. Adopting the bylaw that I proposed is an important step in addressing all this harm. The town's finance committee, after very close deliberation, voted overwhelmingly in favor of giving it a positive recommendation, 7-1. It's also been endorsed by the Nantucket Civic League, the Nantucket Historical Commission, and many neighborhood associations, 10 at this point, representing 81% of the Civic League's membership. I urge those listening to support it too. For more details, please visit nantucketlights.org. Thanks so much for your consideration. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Gail. We had invited Finance Committee member Jill Veith to comment on Article 76. Jill, are you with us? I don't believe she is. Okay. If not, we'll move on. Let's turn to Article 83, which would amend the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission. We've invited Hillary Hedges Rayport, who sponsored Article 83, to inform you. Hillary?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me on. The purpose of Article 83 is to create a more representative and inclusive planning commission for Nantucket by adding directly elected seats. And I have a short presentation I'm going to share my screen with. Presentation. Can everybody see that? I'm sure you can. So Article 83 creates a more responsive regional planning commission by adding directly elected seats. And I just want to tell you why I believe we need Article 83. It's because Nantucket faces very real challenges. We need state and federal funding to help us. This money will come through our regional planning agency. Regional planning agencies were created in the Commonwealth in the 1950s, and there are 13 of them. They plan regionally, and their job is to work with the state and federal government to bring money that is distributed through grants and to bring technical expertise to their regions. We need this planning commission to work for us. We also need long-range planning. We've been growing so fast, and yet our master plan has not been updated in 14 years. And more every year, we feel the pressure our island is under. Our Planning Commission is here to help, and we need it to do more for us. The other reason why I believe you should adopt Article 83 is because of how important this Planning Commission is. This is the official org chart from the PLUS department, or Planning and Land Use. And you'll see that the NP and EDC is right up there at the top next to the Select Board. It didn't always have this level of responsibility. It was given this responsibility in 2012 when all of building and all of permitting and HDC and land use was put under the Planning Commission. And I think if a group is going to have this level of responsibility for Nantucket, the voters of Nantucket should be able to add directly elected seats, should be able to vote people onto this advisory commission directly. And that's what Article 83 will do. Article 83 also modernizes the structure, name, and description of the commission to the Nantucket Regional Planning Commission. It adds 5 directly elected seats. It adds the Land Bank and the NHC, which is the Nantucket Historical Commission, because these are 2 very important planning, land use related planning organizations related to open space and preservation. The planning board is currently all 5 members are on the NPNEDC, really whether they have any interest in long-range planning or not. If you run for election to the planning board, you are automatically put on the NPNEDC. What this article does is the planning board has 1 seat, which is equal to all of the other boards. It adds a term limit and a reporting requirement as well. It doesn't add any regulatory authority. The commission remains advisory, and it doesn't make any changes to the planning staff or organization or dictate any priorities. It simply changes how people get to serve and lets more people to be involved. It will create a more accountable, balanced regional planning commission with 5 new directly elected members. The planning board will remain unchanged. It continues to focus on subdivision control, special permitting, and approving the long-range plan. The planning commission will focus on what regional planning agencies are meant to do. In closing, I want to say that last year I brought a similar article to town meeting, which had a lot of interest, but was tabled in order to let the NPNEDC have a chance to study itself and its own performance. I expect they will produce a report at some point. So some of you may be wondering, why should you support Article 83, a citizens article, at this time? In response, I would say that a democratic government has checks and balances for a reason. I'm asking you to vote yes on Article 83 because town meeting is that check and that balance. We have the capability to evaluate the NPNEDC to judge for ourselves if we are satisfied with planning on Nantucket, to judge if the structure of the NPNEDC can be improved, and to judge if we would like to have more of a voice through directly elected seats on this commission. Thank you. Please vote yes on 83.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. For an alternative perspective, let's hear from Mary Longacre. Mary chairs the Planning and Economic Development Commission. Your perspective on Article 83, Mary?
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. Thank you to the Civic League and the attendees. I'm here to talk about Article 83. As Charlie noted, I am the chair of the Planning and Economic Development Commission, which is the target of this article. But my comments today are my own. The NPNEDC has not endorsed a statement on this article other than its vote on January 23rd, which was to recommend not to adopt Article 83. The Finance Committee concurred, also voting a motion not to adopt the article. The intent of Article 83 appears to me solely to shred the current makeup of the commission and make it more difficult for people to serve by requiring them to spend money and time to be elected rather than appointed. It will not change the function or procedures of the NPNEDC. But our membership has already changed dramatically following the deaths of Jack Gardner and Judith Wagner, and with natural attrition due to resignations and changing appointees. 6 of our 11 seats have new members since 2021, with a majority being under the age of 60. This is not a fossilized commission. It is ready to change with the times. The people this article would remove are Christy Ferrantella, Wendy Hudson, and myself as at-large members, and 4 of the 5 planning board members, Dave Iverson, Nat Lowell, Barry Rector, Joe Topham, and John Trudell. All of us have a history of working hard for the community and a wealth of experience to bring to NPNEDC. We are at the heart and soul of this Nantucket community where we live. Over the last 9 months since I became the new chair, the NPNEDC has begun reviewing the enabling legislation, including the membership, bylaws, and the mission for which we were formed. Before Mrs. Rayport brought out her article, we were already thinking about how to better meet the rapidly changing needs of the community. The NPNEDC will be sending a home rule petition when we have completed our review process. Passing Article 83 would set up a conflict at the state level between one woman's personal initiative and the changes to be submitted by the commission itself through a public process. It is possible that neither petition would be received favorably in that case. But the fact is, several of the changes the NPNEC is working on are things she supports. We would much rather do the work to send one set of comprehensive updates to the legislature than continue to be distracted by a competing and incomplete effort. At town meeting, I urge you to vote not to adopt Article 83. Thank you.
And thank you, Mary. Finally, let's consider Article 92 relating to the solid waste facility long-term lease. I call upon Town Manager Libby Gibson and Finance Director Brian Turbot to inform us about this article.
Thank you. I'll begin, and if Brian wants to add anything, he can. It's a pretty straightforward article. The current long-term solid waste contract, the so-called waste services agreement with our current landfill operator, expires in 2025. We have begun and are pretty far down the road of developing a request for proposals in anticipation of the contract expiring. And it will need to be a long-term either lease or operating contract, and town meeting approval is required for such a term of contract. So we are seeking authorization for that long-term agreement and are in the process again of developing the RFP, but it's to authorize entering into an agreement so that we can do the proper planning ahead of time. Brian, you want to add anything?
I don't have anything to add to that, Libby, but Charlie, I just did want to let you know as a follow-up to the presentation that the town manager gave in her opening remarks with regard to the capital projects and the ballot questions. If people are interested to see the actual potential tax impact for their specific property, the town has, as it did last year, put a tax impact calculator under the town meeting section. You can click on it and enter your own assessed valuation and indicate whether you have the residential exemption or not, and pick all of the projects or ones that you may be interested in to see what that impact might look like. It's an estimate only, but hopefully it will help people get a better understanding of what those impacts to their respective tax bills might be.
Okay, thank you, Libby, for that explanation of Article 92, and Brian for that valuable information about costing out these items. If anyone wishes to pose questions, now would be the time to do it. I will read them aloud and then ask the appropriate town official or sponsor to respond. Do we have any questions, Jackie? I don't see anything.
No questions have been put into the Q&A.
Okay, well, if anybody wants to inquire further along the line, they can do so. We can move on with the program. Do any other sponsors of warrant articles wish to speak? This would be the time to do that. We have a brief description of warrant article 72 from sponsor Bruce Mandel. He writes that Article 72 addresses two public safety items in Chapter 98 of the Town Code. Chapter 98 currently protects the users of sidewalks and other public ways from three types of motorized personal vehicles from being used on sidewalks. That list of vehicles was created 2 decades ago. It needs to be updated because more types of motorized personal devices have been put into use due to new technologies which add more powerful motors. Article 72 updates the list of motorized vehicles and devices that are not supposed to be on sidewalks. It equates sidewalks with bike paths, side paths, shared use paths, or multi-use paths to give pedestrians the same level of safety as we provide for users of sidewalks. Of Nantucket's more than 250 miles of roads, there are only 31 miles of what the town in its website is now calling side paths. These are bike paths, multi-use paths. Bike paths were never intended to be used by motorized vehicles. No businesses would be adversely affected by Article 72. Motorized vehicles, such as those listed, are legally allowed to use roads. There are no anticipated additional costs to the town associated with the article. Enforcement remains as stated in the chapter as being passive, like our regulations about excessive noise, outdoor lighting, fertilizer misapplication. The speed specifications for the list of motorized devices ranges between 12 and 40 miles per hour. Walkers travel at 3 to 3.5 miles an hour. Finally, the list of motorized personal vehicles proposed to be added to Chapter 98 are scooters, that is, two-seated vehicles capable of speeds over 40 miles an hour, mopeds, single-seat vehicles capable of speeds over 40 miles an hour, one-wheel rollerboards, maximum speed up to 22 miles per hour or more, self-balancing unicycles and scooter or skateboards, razor boards, boards with handlebars and throttle speed controls, and powered bicycles capable of speeds up to 40 miles an hour. So writes sponsor Bruce Mandel. Are there any other sponsors who wish to write about their warrant article? We do have a question from Bruce Mandel.
Charlie, I suggest you review the question before you read it aloud.
All right. And Peter, you would prefer that we skip over this particular question?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Well, it looks like we do not. And we raced through this with a pretty good speed, speaking of the last warrant article. So thank you all for participating. On behalf of the Civic League, we very much appreciate the comments made by our presenters and our participants. Thank you all.